When we imagine medieval times, we think of knights and castles. But for the true heroes, the peasants, winter was a brutal annual fight for survival. In flimsy huts of mud and sticks, with walls thinner than parchment, the cold wasn't just discomfort, it was a mortal enemy. The inside of your home was merely a few polite degrees above the freezing world outside. Nights were long, dark, and filled with the howling of winds that found every crack. This is the story of their incredible resilience, ingenuity, and communal grit in the face of relentless cold. When we imagine medieval times, we think of knights and castles. But for the true heroes, the peasants, winter was a brutal annual fight for survival. In flimsy huts of mud and sticks, with walls thinner than parchment, the cold wasn't just discomfort, it was a mortal enemy. The inside of your home was merely a few polite degrees above the freezing world outside. Nights were long, dark, and filled with the howling of winds that found every crack. This is the story of their incredible resilience, ingenuity, and communal grit in the face of relentless cold.
So they mastered banking the fire. Before bed, they'd carefully bury the glowing embers under a thick layer of ash. This insulating blanket kept the coals alive, smoldering until morning. It was a precise art, passed down through generations. Some nights, families would sleep in shifts, with someone always on ember patrol to tend the fragile heart of their home. But fire wasn't enough. They fought drafts with makeshift insulation. Gaps in walls were stuffed with moss, rags, and straw. Doors and window covers were sealed with animal fat-soaked hides. It was a constant cold battle of patchwork repairs against the invading wind.
The most reliable source of warmth was each other. Personal space vanished. On the coldest nights, entire families, and sometimes neighbors, would huddle together in the warmest corner, forming a layered human lasagna for shared body heat. The strongest were placed on the outside as shields, with the young and old tucked safely in the center. They shared communal straw mattresses, which flattened under the weight, but provided crucial insulation from the frozen ground. They also brought in their livestock. Cows, goats, and chickens weren't just barn animals, they were living, breathing furnaces. Sharing your one-room home with them meant enduring legendary smells and the occasional hoof to the ribs, but it added precious degrees of warmth. A cow's breath could be the difference between life and death.
Fashion was survival. The rule was wear everything you own. Layer upon layer of scratchy wool tunics, leggings, and cloaks. Boots were rare. Feet were wrapped in rags stuffed into wooden clogs. Washing clothes in winter was impractical and dangerous. Wet fabric froze. This led to strategic filth. Over weeks, layers of dirt, grease, and natural oils built up on their clothes. This grimy layer actually acted as a wind-resistant, insulating barrier. While they might smell like a goat who lost a bet, that crusty tunic was a thermal shield. In medieval winter, cleanliness was not next to godliness. Warmth was. A full stomach was another weapon. A heavy meal of thick stew, porridge, and dense bread before bed meant the body generated heat through digestion. It was internal heating. They also employed clever tricks like the heated stone. A flat rock would be left in the hearth fire until red hot, then wrapped in rags and placed at the foot of the bed, a medieval hot water bottle. And through it all, there was faith and community. They prayed to saints for protection against throat ailments and frozen crops. Villages looked out for one another. If a neighbor's hearth smoke stopped, someone would check. Food and resources were shared. They understood that no one survived winter alone. Despite all this ingenuity, sometimes it wasn't enough. Harsh winters could bring famine and disease. Frostbite claimed fingers and toes. There was an accepted, grim understanding that not everyone would see the spring. Yet their legacy is one of profound resilience. Every hay-stuffed mattress,
Every banked fire, every moss-crammed wall was a victory of human creativity and stubborn will. They built a blueprint for endurance without the luxuries we take for granted. The next time you feel a draft from a modern window or curl under an electric blanket, remember the medieval peasants. Their blood, sweat, and ingenuity are invisibly stitched into our comfort. They faced the endless cold with communal spirit, raw intelligence, and an unbreakable will to see another sunrise. They didn't just survive winter, they taught us that the human spirit, when woven together, can be the warmest shelter of all.